Why, hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today for our live coaching sessions webinar, one of our favorites to host here at Coaching Out of the Box. I'm Sandra Mall, and I will be your host for today's webinar. I am the program advisor here at Coaching Out of the Box, and the reason that we're all here today is for you to walk away with value and experience the power of coaching, as well as to get to know a little bit more about us here at Coaching Out of the Box. So as program advisor, I speak with people every day who want to learn more about coaching and about our programs. I'm happy to speak to any one of you if you have any questions that you would like answered, or you want to discuss anything in relation to coaching. You'll see my link on the screen here. We love your feedback, so please feel free throughout this webinar to use the chat function. We will be checking the chat. And once the webinar is complete, we will be sending out a follow-up email that will include the slides for today's webinar, as well as a link to the recording. So I would like to introduce you all to our wonderful CEO and founder here at Coaching Out of the Box, Allison Hendren.
Hello, everyone, and I can see the numbers growing on the side as people are coming in, and I am as Sandra said, this is one of our favorite webinars to do, and we do this because, and I have to tell you, now more than ever, everyone needs to be equipped with these skills to varying degrees, because what's going on, and all of us are experiencing it, we're at home, we've got children around, and so on and so forth, and to have these skills and to be able to have these kinds of conversations is transformational and will support people as they move through this incredible time that we're all living in. And so, Sandra, if you could just move the slide forward. So for today, because I don't want to take up too much time talking, I want us to get into those fabulous demos. But we want you to see what can happen in a short space of time. We want you to see the different styles of coaching. We've got two fabulous coaches and two wonderful coaches here today. We'll mention them shortly. How we use the core competencies, the ICF core competencies of coaching, which is what we align with when we're coaching people. The skills that are used and will be used in the moment, in the time that coaching is taking place today. Also, and I want to remind you again, these are real. No one has discussed ahead of time, oh, I'm going to talk about this, or I'm going to say that. No one has. And that's what it should be. It should be like that. When you're seeing coaching demonstrated, that's what you should be seeing, not pretend coaching, as I call it, or scripted coaching, because that's what it's all about. And we'll also have time for Q&A as these demos move along. And what we said, real, unscripted, it's kind of like improv, the improv of coaching. That's what coaching is. That is actually what it is. And I already said, and the coaches that we've got today, they will be figuring it out in the moment. And I would like to mention, I really want to specifically acknowledge a few people. Jolianne Abe, I hope I'm saying it right, and Ed Millermeyer, thank you so much for being willing to be our fabulous coachees today. And I hope that this will be so valuable for each of you as you bring a particular issue or challenge or whatever it is that you want to use that time for. And Rosa and Sinivi, you'll meet in a few moments as well. I just really appreciate, these are two of our fabulous outstanding coaches, ICF credentialed coaches, and also our fabulous coach facilitators at Coaching Out of the Box are going to be leading, or they're going to be the coaches for today. And if we could just move the slide along a little bit. We do this because it takes practice. You don't learn this right out of the gate. It takes time and it takes lots of practice. And by the way, having to do it in this kind of a format, I'll tell you, really grows yourself as a coach as well. And also, to be able to see other people coaching and being coached is also a great learning tool. We always learn from observing and we always learn from watching. And I want to just quickly mention what is coaching, and just to clarify and just to kind of give us the ground here for that. And Sandra, if you could just move it along to the coaching defined. Great. This is what it is. And this is what's the magic of it, is that partnering together with clients, customers, colleagues, or employees, sometimes it's families, in a thought-provoking and creative process, that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. That's what the definition of coaching is. And that's where the magic happens, is when we do that. And so ICF also sets the standards for coaching. And we adhere to those standards. And we've got the core competencies right here, which is setting the foundation. And you'll see, you can all read, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. Co-creating the relationship. It's created together. It is not one over the other. It is a partnering and a collaborating and a creating this relationship together. Communicating effectively, and there's key things that happen in communicating effectively. Communicating is huge in coaching. And facilitating learning and results, which is creating awareness. This is what happens. This is the magic that goes on. The actions, it's very pragmatic. The goal setting and the planning, and also managing the coach is creating a structure of accountability. So they're managing the progress, and they're managing they're both managing the accountability as well. So just to anchor us for today, in those are the competencies that we are talking about. So we're going to have some live coaching sessions. So I'll let Sandra jump in here.
Yes, so each coaching session today will be 12 minutes in length, and we are going to have about a 10-minute debrief on the coaching sessions to discuss what went well, what competencies were well shown and whatnot as well. Please remember that the chat box is open. We are happy to have any feedback, any questions that you have, any insights that you come up with or for you during the coaching sessions today. Please feel free to use the chat. We love to hear from you. And I'm going to start off by introducing one of our coach facilitators. So we have joining us today the lovely Rosa Dinga, one of our coach facilitators here at Coaching Out of the Box. She's also a professional certified coach and the principal and leadership coach for Fiamma Coaching and Consulting. And Rosa has extensive experience working with individuals and teams across a wide range of sectors, and is passionate about supporting people and teams to reach their goals and create the career and life that they desire. And Rosa, would you like to say hello?
Hi. I just wanted to reiterate that, like Allison said, these are our favorite to watch and to be part of. So I'm looking forward to it. Yay.
We're happy to have you here. Thanks so much for doing it. And we're also going to introduce to you all our second coach for these sessions, and this is Sunivi Seeley. Again, Sunivi is one of our coach facilitators here at Coaching Out of the Box. She's also a professional certified coach, and she is the founder and operator of Sunivi Seeley Coaching and Consulting. Sunivi has worked with thousands of leaders at all levels and has made it her life's work helping leaders reach their full potential. She brings connection, authenticity, and courage to her coaching practice. And we're happy to have you here, Sunivi. Would you like to say hello?
Sure. Hello. I'm looking at the participants and seeing many of my former students here. So looking forward to hearing your feedback as we get into the coaching. Excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks so much for being here. So I am actually going to jump right in, and we are going to move to our first live coaching session. So Joliane is our wonderful coachee for today, and you are welcome to unmute yourself and come on the screen. And there you are. It's so great to see you. It's been a while.
Yes, nice to see you.
Joliane will be coached by Rosa for this first session, and then Suniti is going to lead the debrief on this session. We understand that this is a little bit intimidating, Joliane, so thank you. You are very brave. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and Rosa's fantastic. I'm going to be the timekeeper. So Rosa, how would you like a 2-minute warning?
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Okay, just to jump on and say 2 minutes?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I will do. So I'm going to go ahead and take myself off the screen, and Rosa, you can take it away.
Excellent. Joliane, thank you. Without you, we couldn't be doing this. I'd be talking to myself. I want to be completely transparent. Joliane, you and I have met before. I get to be, one of the great things I get to do is be part of one of the courses that you're taking. So just wanted to be transparent, and we haven't had a conversation before this, so I have no idea what you're bringing. I also want to send an intention for the space. I want to create a safe space for you to bring whatever you want and whatever is top of mind for you. And at the same time, I realize there's a little bit of a weird dynamic that happens when you know that there are people watching. So I'm hoping that they've disappeared and it's just you and me. So we have about 11 minutes. What is one thing that if we talk about over the next 11 minutes that would make the biggest difference for you right now?
Well, I've had this project on my mind for over a year now, and I've decided not too long ago that I was just going to start puttering at it and kind of doing little steps. And the project is I want to try to do a podcast. And right now, so I've been kind of reading, doing those things, but what kind of keeps bumping up is really the topic, I guess. I have a general idea, but I'm like, okay, do I actually, like, do I go this way or that way? So I'm still uncertain. It's kind of there, but it's not defined enough. And so I want to clarify, I guess, by the end of the coaching session, a little bit more what that topic might be. Yeah. So, so I guess what comes up in terms of topic is I'm a healthcare practitioner, and so I'm either, and what I love is conversations with people about their lives and why they do certain things, and I find that very inspiring. And I love having conversation with healthcare practitioners or listening to other podcasts about practitioners that do things just differently, that promote health in different ways, where maybe they have a traditional training like I do, and they've branched out, or they've done something completely innovative. And so that's kind of where I'm at in where I want to go. Do I stay in my small community? There's many people that do amazing things. Do I stick in there? Do I broaden in the province? Do I even go beyond that, or do I stick within the profession that I am in occupational therapy, or do I go and explore and speak to people that are from different professions in the healthcare department, I guess? Yes.
So I hear you love conversations. You love conversations with different kind of interesting, I want to do something different. I hear you saying, I want to do something different. And then I heard you opening a bunch of doors. Do I do local? Do I stay in the province? Do I stay in the industry but go abroad? Do I still in a different industry? When you were talking, which one of those made you think, ooh, that's interesting, I really want to do that?
I think what keeps coming back is the local aspect. I think we're a very small community, small province, and we just stay kind of calm and do our thing, and don't shine the light on the people in our space. And so that's kind of where, I guess, what comes up first when you ask that question is, and when I say local in my community, I'm meaning maybe more my province. So we're a small province, so to me that would be interesting. Yeah.
Interesting. How?
How? because we do a lot of amazing things and nobody knows about it. And so if we know about it, then we can say, well, I don't need to move to a big city to be able to do this. I can do this in my small community. And so I think it inspires, when I hear people locally, it inspires me. And it doesn't feel too far off.
Interesting. You talked about, again, that place of celebration. I want to celebrate the fun, cool things that we're doing here. That inspiration piece of not only you getting inspired, but again, a podcast, your listeners getting inspired to saying, I don't actually have to go somewhere else. There's really cool things happening right here. Anything else that came to mind when you were talking about, again, that local draw of, staying in that place?
Not in particular.
Okay.
I think it's the same kind of bouncing ideas. I guess where it lands me is a little bit more like, okay, do I stick to the profession of occupational therapist, or do I broaden that to, other, doctors and nurses who do things differently, holistic health practitioners, like how, they've kind of been able to support the people, and just, I guess, their own stories, how they've evolved to that.
I'm curious, what happens when you take out the word or, again, and put in the word and? So, what you're talking about, occupational therapists and physicians and other healthcare professionals and maybe others. What does that do for you?
The word inclusive comes.
Okay.
And I like that word because that's what I'm hoping to bring, is that in maybe not exactly inclusive, but in the sense that, we do great things around here. So let's celebrate that and let's hear your stories because they're important. Kind of the trailblazer stories that when I hear often is people feel so far, but when I hear stories of people close to home, it's like, oh, maybe I can stretch my boundary or stretch my limit and go a step beyond to impact others more positively.
And it's interesting, as you talk about that impact of your conversations, the impact isn't, you haven't put that into a box of the impact is only going to be in healthcare. The impact is only going to be in, the impact seems like it not only, it crosses industries as you talk about it. Is that a fair statement as you understand it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think impact, it crosses. Yeah. And the idea is not just the impact of the professionals themselves, it's for the community, that, a doctor that I might speak to or another therapist that, we're the same as someone who works in accounting or works at the grocery store. Like, we're just humans. And I think the story is what's important as well, or one of the things that's important.
So I heard the story, the interesting part of it, the different, the impact, again, the humanization, and also that connection of community or to an idea. So going back to what you had said, I want some clarity. I want to pick one. I'm curious to say, or going back to, what if it wasn't necessarily, again, a choice? What if it was a step? So instead of choosing, it would just be step 1, step 2, step 3, instead of choosing A, B, C, or D. How'd that feel?
I think that helps. What comes to mind is letting go, kind of knowing what it's going to look like, and just letting me be curious, be in that curious space and say, okay, well, if by kind of launching a podcast and giving it kind of I guess the other, what comes down to is like, what am I going to name it? But if I allow enough space for it, then it takes away the, you know, having to have that end result, having an idea, I want to podcast and these are the intents, but I might not have all my lineup of everybody I want to interview because there's so many people I already know that I want to interview and I want to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Basically an excuse to talk to them. A good one.
Right? Again, it sounds like you're like, you know, it's not like it sounds like something you want to do, and that excuse of I need something to talk to them because these people are fascinating to you as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of a context, I guess, to
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So going back to that place of, okay, you have all of these ideas and all of these doors and all these opportunities and in doing something that you really want to do. Now that you're saying, you know, maybe kind of I almost felt that you had said it took off a weight of I don't need to
Yeah.
have everything programmed. I don't have to have everything lined up. I can be curious.
Yeah.
Thank you. So now what? Now that you have lifted that weight, what's the first step? Now what?
Well, I think it's clear that what's clear to me right now is that it will be multi-professional. Or I guess broader, not just my own occupational therapist field. And then that I want to keep it within, anyways, right now, within the communities that are close to me. And I think the next step is what came to mind was I want to re-listen to this audio and get those, like the words that pop out to me so I can actually kind of create a little title of it, of the name of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that having this clarified will help me kind of give it more of a name, I guess. For that.
I hear not only a name, but almost just something to start with.
Yeah.
Like you said before of, you know, that curiosity space is let's start this with the intention you shared of impact and conversations and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that feel right?
Yeah. And that's really what I want it to feel as well, is that stay in a curious space. And that's important, and it being a process as opposed a fun process. It's project for fun. It's not a work, so I want it to stay fun. Yeah.
So you talked about re-listening to this so that you get all of the words, and what else can you do?
There's a lot of things that needs to happen before I actually get the podcast going. But not
another way,
what can I do?
Yeah.
I really feel that that's kind of the first step, is looking into what were the keywords that stands out, and writing them down. And then from there, maybe even just starting to create my list of people I want to interview that I know, because there's going to be so many people that I have no clue exist, right? So it's going to be a process of discovery. But I think in the short term, it's really taking out those important words, creating, coming up with what it's going to be called. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just putting a name, something, and what that short little, using those words to really create a little description of what that podcast is going to be like.
And I hear it also, keep curious and have fun.
Yeah.
So I see that our time is up, Julianne. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosa.
You're very welcome. Sanivi.
All right, thank you. Always a privilege when I get to see my coaching buddy, Rosa, in action. And I'm seeing already coming up in the chat that somebody is commenting on Rosa's coaching style, just being so warm and supportive. And I would definitely echo those comments. When you think about the core competencies and you think about creating trust and intimacy, and one of the first things Rosa started off with was wanting to create that safe space for this conversation, knowing that it can be like really hard and awkward when you're the coachee in this space. So I'm seeing some agreement show up in the chat around that. So I'm going to do a little bit of a debrief with Julianne and Rosa, and I will invite you to take a look at this slide and comment in the chat around what it is you noticed, what were some of the skills that you saw being used, and what you learned. And then I'm going to come back to the chat and see what comes up there as well. So we'll start with you, Julianne. Rosa had said, like, she confessed you guys are in the same coaching class together. However, Rosa had no idea what you would be bringing to the table today. And from where you started in terms of wanting to sort of get some ideas for your podcast to where you ended up, what would you say were the key takeaways for you in that really brief coaching conversation?
Thank you, Rosa, first of all.
Thank you.
Knowing kind of the process of a coaching session, I could really see kind of going from, defining, and then we kind of explored and then ended up with actually kind of an action plan, or to a certain, somewhat defined. And so I really liked it. We could see really that process. I was really challenged in just the little tiny words that you would like when you ask to change the or to the and what's really most important. So really kind of having me reflect and stick with what came up. And so continuing the conversation with that, as opposed to me going back and forth. So it allowed really to focus on what was most important.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that was super short, like 12 minutes. And it always amazes me like how much can get done in 12 minutes when you've got like this coach and you've got this totally focused, dedicated conversation. So it sounds like for you, what was showing up there were keywords. And I heard you say as well, like, I'm going to go back and watch this recording and I'm going to use some of those keywords to help come up with the idea or the content for my podcast or what that title would be. Tons of comments coming through on the chat. So I'm just going to pause for a moment and come and take a look at some of what folks are sharing. Great listening and questions. So again, like Rosa demonstrating that competency of powerful listening and creating space for Julianne to just really explore and think through what the issue is. Kay is commenting here on take out or and put in and. And so when I'm observing coaching, I'll write down like really great questions or sort of like the big aha light bulb moments. And that was one I had written on my page and starred. And sometimes it's just something that simple, like changing it from an or to an and that actually seemed to really open up and expand the conversation. So great catch there, Kay. The use of silence and power behind the words, lots of Rosa's statement starting with, I'm curious. So in coaching, we come from a place of curiosity and not to serve ourselves and from our own curious nature, but really to serve our coaching clients and to really help them to understand what is beneath or behind this particular issue. Lots of great comments. There's so many. I have to keep going. Summarizing and picking one thing from a series of ideas. So yeah, when you've only got 12 minutes to coach somebody, you have to summarize and you have to like pick one thing. And typically there's multiple things, but you can't cover them all in 12 minutes. So what is it that's going to give Julianne the most value? And you heard Rosa asking that question right up front to determine what's going to be the best use of her time. How is this going to be valuable to her in terms of 12 minutes? Again, recognition of Julianne's abilities, liking the invitation to explore more, your coaching presence, Rosa, and your smile. So again, like that real warmth showing through, reflecting back what she heard. So again, active listening, reflecting back, I hear, and then some paraphrasing, designing actions. Okay, I can tell you guys are like experienced because like you are like nailing all these competencies doing my work for me. So I'm just gonna pause on the chat there, but like amazing comments. Take a scroll through if I have not read your comment out loud. But coming back to you, Rosa, how was that experience for you, knowing that you've got 12 minutes and you've got sort of a few kind of different threads or strands that you could work with your coachee through? How did that go for you in the time that you had?
I always find, like I think you said, I always find it interesting when I come into a short coaching conversation. There's that, desire, oh my God, I want to be of service to the other person. And there's only a short amount of time. And that's when for me, it's letting go of that, knowing that there's time, there's a short amount of time, but then just sitting in it and saying, okay, Julianne is the expert here. I'm just, creating a space for her to, as I almost call it, dump everything out and then start looking through things and grouping things and then finding a way through, just with the curiosity space. I love being curious, so it makes it a lot easier to be in it. Plus taking that, if you look at it as in the coaching road of, we bring the process, we create the space, not knowing what is going to happen in that space, and all in service to whoever we're talking to move from where they are to where they want to go. So I'm grateful that Julianne was, in it and, got to a place for herself, and it makes it a lot easier when you're looking at that 12 minutes and saying, oh my gosh, are we going to help? How can I be of service? Just to be in it. So I was grateful, very grateful that you got that.
For sure. I find one of the things when I'm doing coach training in the workplace is people are often wondering, how can I do this in the 5 minutes that I have when somebody comes to my office and says, hey, have you got 5 minutes to talk? And it's always so surprising what can be done in such a short period of time when we show up in a way where we are truly listening and where we are in service to the other person and where we are really focused and succinct, almost laser-like in what it is we're doing. So I saw that demonstrated really well. Just to wrap up the debrief, I'm going to come to a few more comments here, and there are a lot. Again, comments around creating that safe environment. A comment from Deirdre around clearing the way, right? So when we talk about clearing the way, we're thinking about what are all those potential roadblocks or obstacles or barriers that are going to prevent our coachee from actually taking action or moving forward, and how do we then strategize around some of those things. Target style coaching, Leon is saying she did great to establish the time frame right out of the gate. So any final comments around what you're taking away or what you might have learned from this coaching demonstration? Please feel free to pop them in the chat. And I think we're probably ready to carry on.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful debrief. And we're going to jump right into our live coaching session number 2. So we're joined today by Ed Miller-Meyer. Thank you so much, Ed, for being here. And Ed is going to be coached by Sunevi. Again, it's going to be a 12-minute coaching session followed by the debrief. Sunevi, are you okay if I just jump in for the 2-minute warning?
Sure. Yep.
Perfect. And I'm going to get off the screen and let you two take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ed, for agreeing to participate in this coaching demonstration today. We have not met, for those of you that are watching. We've never been in a course together, and I have no idea what Ed is going to bring to the table today, which makes it kind of exciting. So Ed, in the 12 minutes that we've got here today, what would be most valuable for us to focus on?
So a bit of context, but I really want to talk about effectively communicating with clients I have. And by clients, I mean actually patients. I'm a general internal medicine doc. And in the last year of my clinical practice, and actually I'm in the fast track to become a certified coach. And I'm very excited and get a tremendous amount of joy out of the current experience. And I'm very much looking forward to that. And what I've discovered in the near term is the tension that happens when the relationships with patients are not very trusting. And it may just be that I know I'm on the tail end here and am allowing things to surface that perhaps professionally, really, we've been coached and counseled not to let surface. And I want to make sure I don't inadvertently stumble into something that I will either regret or lose the professionalism that's expected from us. And an example will be when you have a what you think is a trusted conversation with someone, then you go back to the medical record and discover they've not been truthful with you. And most of the time I understand I look for what motivates that and get to what's underneath it. And I have found myself much less patient with that in the short run. I suppose it's just the anticipation of not having to deal with all that stuff anymore. Which there is some humor to this, and yet that's a concern of mine. So
Sure.
I'm wondering about what are little tricks what are little techniques I can develop over these last probably 7 months. I think I'm looking at the end of the year to transition. I have obligated to give a 6-month notice, so that'll come soon. But to make sure that I may, if you will, remain true to the integrity of the profession.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to pick my clients. I understand I will perhaps be able to do that in the coaching environment. I've been reading literature saying, describe your ideal client. I get that there's a reality to all of this, but so I can't do that in the setting I'm in. So
for sure. So in a perfect world, you'd be able to pick your ideal patients as well.
Yes, and what's been interesting is I have actually avoided the culling out of difficult patients in the practice over the years, and I do that partly just because of my own values. I don't think it's right, and I usually when people are I'm a primary care physician, by the way, so it's usually when people are disruptive or maybe they're not truthful. I realize they're not lying to me; they're lying to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I may be losing a little bit of that perspective. And so somewhere I do need to sort of regain that in a way that keeps me grounded. I have been pretty well grounded over the years, and it's just been very disruptive. Now, I will say I am certain that the upheaval of the world, I'm coming to you live from my basement, and I've been doing plenty of video visits there. We've finally gotten back into the office. And I had been in a leadership role for quite some time, and I'm out of that. So there's been that transition. And then we've had a medical circumstance in our family that's changed things quite dramatically. So there have been other distractors that have not been insignificant. So I am aware of those things, but you can't let those, there's a professionalism. You can't let those things. So I'm wondering if there's maybe some time to talk about little techniques on how to navigate properly.
Okay, so I'm hearing there's a theme of transition happening in your life right now.
Major, yes.
Big transition and multiple layers to the transition.
Yes.
So things in your personal life, thinking about sort of the next step or the next chapter for you in terms of your career. Mm-hmm. I heard you use the word joy to describe the idea of being able to work with your ideal clients and continue on doing some coaching outside of your regular medical practice, but also some challenges right now in terms of some maybe difficult patients and wanting to really solidify some tips or tricks to be able to maintain that professionalism for the next 6 or 7 months, knowing that probably you're gaining really deep self-awareness as you go through the coaching process and you're starting to see things as they are, maybe more so than in the past, especially given that you are now transitioning.
Well, that resonates deeply. At the moment I started this, I've actually done a couple of the 555 just one-day sessions locally, and this is really where the bug truly bit me. And I thought, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this 30 years ago? And have applied the coaching techniques in the office. It's been transformative, and I suppose that's what's triggering the opposite of this, because when that doesn't happen, there's something in me that says, no, you have to behave this way. This is the new way. And I get, okay, Ed, what are you expecting? The only person you can change is yourself. And so I am very aware of the sort of transitional phase that I personally am going through. So it's maybe just talking this through is helpful to just get re-grounded and understand that not everyone is interested in a partnered relationship. Even though I know that we are invited, I have always felt, somebody used the phrase being an invited guest in people's lives years ago. I heard that, oh boy, that is so true. And for me, that has been one of the more grounding things. And I think sometimes maybe instead of coming into the foyer and the living room, I want to go into the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom, the basement, and the attic. So I perhaps need to back off a little bit here and get into that deep stuff, which to flip it around is what we do. We need to know people and know them well. And
Yeah.
there is trust that's implied in all of this. So,
For sure.
yeah.
I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that you are willing to do this. It sounds like this is an invitation to your current patients, and
Mhm.
whether they choose to accept the invitation or not, as you say, they make that call. Some of them don't want to be partnered and they don't want you exploring every room in their house, but others are probably going to be really open to the process. For myself, I
Yeah.
know if I had a doctor that was using a coach approach and inviting me into a conversation on a deeper level, I would be thrilled. I think it's something that's quite rare. So tell me a little bit more around how that's working for you when you have used that approach.
So thanks for the acknowledgement. It's really interesting. So we're under a lot of time pressure when we do our work. And I have a bit had the privilege of not even to worry about that quite so much, but we always do. And in the times when we have our longer appointments for physicals or for wellness experiences, I go right to the open-ended questioning: what's important to you in your life? What can I do for you? What would be a good outcome for this meeting? And I even use goal setting and lifestyle. And I'll ask on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the likelihood you're going to achieve this? And if I hear things 7 or less, I'll say, well, what's it going to take to get it up to? And boy, those are provocative. They're wonderful questions. And people kind of go, huh, I've never thought about that. And that's well, good. This is a great journey. I love that stuff. And I'm very willing to um, push in a way that's engaging and open. It's when we get folks that tell me that they don't smoke, they've never used cocaine, and then I get patterns of abuse, and I think, wow, this is self-abuse. And I've had a very, very high, I think, compassion for understanding that these are folks that are really struggling. And somewhere that's just kind of, ugh. And maybe it's just, when I'm knowing it's time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that's why I look forward to, I think, I'm not ready to sit on a couch somewhere or on a rocker somewhere by any means. I got energy. I have desire for continued interaction with people. I think I can be valuable to them, and I think it's important to me.
Yeah.
It's just, this has been a really tough little time right now, and I'm not sure that I know exactly what's motivating it. Well, maybe I just rattled them off.
I'm hearing it really speaks to probably your core values in terms of how you want to show up as a physician for your patients, how you're really caring and compassionate and empathetic to where they're at, and also kind of like balancing that with the realism around meeting people where they're at and understanding that not everybody is in that same space.
Well, thank you for that. And the one thing, though, I do recognize now, I have less tolerance for discordant relationships, and I'm quite concerned about the tension that creates as I think about simplifying life, creating joy, being present for my family, all those things. You bring all that stuff home with you, and I've recognized that's not healthy. It's not healthy for me. So I've started a journal, which has been helpful, and thinking about, and maybe this is the action plan, would be to start to think about doing some either mindfulness or yoga or something else to really calm, because the tension, sometimes you just come home and you're just it's like teeth grinding frustration at times. It's like, wow, I used to handle all that stuff. It's like, oof, now I'm ready to let it go.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've heard you say that multiple times in this conversation, like you are ready to let it go. You're
I
ready
really
to
am.
move on.
Yeah,
I'm going to leave you with one final thought because we are out of
please.
time. So
Yes.
one final question. What would happen if you changed the story? So for the next 6 months of going into the practice, rather than feeling like this is a burden and it's heavy and it's hard and it's difficult, how could you bring some of the joy that you're experiencing through coaching and that you've experienced with some of your patients to your everyday practice?
I love the challenge. I love the challenge. Why I don't have an immediate answer for
That's
that
okay.
off the top of my head, but I'm deliberately not going to try to do that because I need to think that one through.
All right.
It's a great question. Thank you. That's
No problem.
very helpful.
Excellent. All right. I think we're out of time. So we will wrap up right there, and over to you, Rosa.
Navy, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's almost used to me having a floating head come into some of his classes as, you know, the coaching is finished. So I know he's he is almost, you know, used to it. I did put a note as you're putting, I'll read very similar to what Sunivi had done. First, I'll start with absolute gratitude. Ed, thank you. Again, Sunivi would be talking to herself. Thank you for coming in, not only as a willing participant, willing to be part of that dance, coming in with your whole self. That makes it so much easier and so much more powerful. So thank you for that. I will also read a few of the chats. I put a note in. Some of you is putting your observations and what you're noticing. Make sure it's to all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see the goodness. So I'll read a few of them and then I'll come to both you, Ed, and you, Sunivi. So I want to just make sure that I'm doing this well. Sunivi is doing an awesome job reflecting back and summarizing. Ed has so much on his mind, what are strategies working with clients that have too much to say and getting them to succinct focus. You know, as you're people are just saying, you know, that acknowledgement space, succinctly identifying key themes. I think Sunivi, you talked about it before, of that laser. As coaches, we bring that laser, you know, let's laser into an observation that you saw. And you know, again, the beautiful job of holding space for him and championing him. I'm going to come back to that. And Ed, I will, as always, start with the person who gets to do all the work in a coaching conversation. What, you know, we all saw even at the end when you're just kind of like, I love the challenge, and you said it a few times, you're like, all right, I'm ready to go, and I'm going to think about this. What did Sunivi do that helped you move from where you started 12 minutes ago to where you are now?
Oh, I think it was a very affirming challenge. I'll say it that way. To say, Ed, this is what drives you. Bring it to work, and not in a finger pointing or a telling way at all. I experienced that and thought, ooh, that's a great question. This is the kind of stuff that I know I personally need to have an effective partner who can kind of nudge in this time period. I think a lot of us are going to need that. I mean, I think Allison opened up the commentary about yikes, resilience, and all the things that are going on, and I know that's part of what drives this. And so, going to that spot was very, very helpful, extremely helpful. So thank you.
Thank you. Sunivi, I'm going to come to you, and then I'll go, you know, do some of the wonderful notes as I scribble, trying to capture everything. How did that feel at the end? How did that 12 minutes, again, 12 minutes, some powerful coaching. How did that feel for you?
I want to talk to Ed for like hours. Like, I feel such a connection to Ed just from like the 12 minutes. Like, I am just like, my mind is blown to come across a physician with the capacity to do what you're doing, Ed. Like, the cheerleader in me was just like wanting to, like, I think I did like clap at one point, but I just really, really am so impressed by what it is you're doing and how you're using coaching in your work. I think it's so innovative and exciting to hear that this is possible and it's happening, especially now in these times. Like, people need this more than ever. So like, the 12 minutes, I could take 2 hours, but I'm grateful for those 12 minutes.
Well, as am I. They went by fast.
Yeah, they did. And I will second that. Having the conversation with Ed is always powerful for both, which is, again, that reminder of, in those conversations, as you're holding the space and showing up, which you do so marvelously, it's that we also get something from it as well. It's not just, you know, it's that beautiful presence is also a gift to us as coaches, or anyone who's using those coaching skills. I'm going to reiterate first. I know some of the chat, I'm like, oh, those were my words, I'm going to steal them. It is always a pleasure to watch Sunevi coach. It really is. She showed up again with her whole self, like she does with everything, and held the space for Ed. And that was one of the observations where, some of you had said that in the chat, and they'll continue to say that. I'll come back to those. Of when you have someone like Ed who's come to you and in a conversation and he thinks externally, Sunevi let him think externally, let him think, let him go through. And we saw that in a couple of places where it was just silence and just like laughter against that warmth presence. And it was just, Ed, again, bring in what you need to, and then start wading through it. And you saw some of that of, I think I heard you say, Ed, now that I'm going through this, now that I said it out loud a few times, Sunevi, you have this beautiful ability again to listen with your whole self and bring back, not only did you, looking at those competencies, not only did you bring back and mirror what Ed was saying, you summarized and emphasized some of his words: joy, challenge, transition, where you kind of emphasized those, and he hung on to those and said, yes, that resonates. And it almost, stayed with him through the whole thing. That place of strength is a beautiful place for a coach, and some of you do really well of what's the person's strength? And it was that not only the acknowledgement, and starting with I'm going to hang on to that joy word, Ed, and I'm going to bring it back for you, Ed, and leaving him with that really powerful challenge at the end that seemed to resonate really well. I'm going to go back to the chat. There's a lot of them, and I love this. This makes it the richness of it. So I'm going to try to hit everyone's messages, holding the space so well while the coachee walks through what it was going on for him. Again, just, Allison's saying, just holding the space for people. That is a common theme that's coming up. It supports forward movement. You hold the space, acknowledge the person steps into their power, and they're able to move forward, which we saw, which was really cool. Acknowledgement of the challenges, willingness to let the client explore. What would happen if you changed the story? I know that was one of them that I put in my toolbox. Loved that final powerful question, that how do you now take this and how do you grab on and move forward? And you just saw that he's ready to move, which was really cool. Again, so much space. That seems to be a theme. And you know what, Ed, I also want to show there's people kind of saying, thank you for being of service to humanity, especially now. So loved how Sunevi highlighted the period of many transition and connection between his values and the patients he serves. That was 12 minutes, folks. I just wanted to underscore that power and, all of that we saw was in 12 minutes using those competencies. Appreciate the coachee was able to be authentic and honest about a significant life change. Coach recognized coachee's reflection skills, didn't rush. Again, she's like, this is your space. Sometimes it's like 12 minutes. We only have 12 minutes. Let's go. We have 12 minutes. A lot of stuff can happen. Let's be present with each other and let's give each other space to go forward and do that. So thank you for sharing a peek in your life. I agree. That was so much fun to watch. I love it because I learned too. Hopefully, again, with the comments you did. Any last words from either Sunevi or Ed before I throw it on over to Sandra? Or again, anyone who wants to throw in their comments in the chat. But any other things from Sunevi and Ed about things that you know coming up or the comments that you see?
Can't emphasize how important the ongoing coaching experience has been for me personally, and how important it is. So again, I have gratitude to all of you, and it's not just coaching out of the box, it's just the whole process that this has been pretty life transformative for me personally, but it's just, yeah, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ed.
And same from me. Just a thank you to everybody for your amazing feedback and comments, and also huge thank you to you, Ed. And I look forward to hopefully at some point hearing how things go.
Thanks.
Excellent. Sandra, I'll pass it on to you.
I'm going to invite Allison to come up and say a few words.
Perfect.
Here I am. Well, as usual, it's outstanding. And I just want to emphasize how important to remember 12 minutes. 12 minutes. These things occurred with Jolianne. Thank you so much. And Ed, thank you so much for being willing to do this. And I'm curious with, I'm seeing a number of comments in the chat area, but for those who are here, what is it you're taking away? What are you specifically taking away as a result of watching these and experiencing these demos today? And you can just throw them into the chat area. And I'm also going to say that somebody was asking, will this be viewable later? Yes, this has been recorded. It will be on the website. And so you will be able to see these later, because these are great learning tools for coaches, existing coaches. And of course, we're doing this because we want to make more and more people aware of the amazing work that is being done at Coaching Out of the Box. Of course, I'm going to say that. And it's true. Obviously, you can see that. And so if you have anybody who's interested in getting into coaching, please let them know about us, because we would love to have them join our programs and develop themselves, whether it's a bit or the full meal deal. As you can see, we use a lot of organizations and individuals are using our programs, and they are transformational, and we have live distance learning. We've been doing this forever. We got on the virtual bandwagon many years ago because I wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to learn how to coach, cost effective as well, and incrementally versus being fed to people like a fire hose. There is something to be said for incremental, and there is something to be said for the power of virtual live distance learning. Face-to-face is also fantastic, and this is also potent and powerful. So I really encourage you to use it, join us, and also, I want you to think about where you are seeing yourself now. And if Sandra could move the slide across, you're all at different places, and there may be different tracks that you want to take, different spots that you are at, and we encourage you to join us. Join us in our proven programs and use our products as well. We encourage that to happen. And I also want to mention that, you know, we have existing programs that are next, and we have them on the next slide, which ones are coming up. And I recognize that, and we also support organizations in developing their own internal coaching capacity. And we've got a few different ones right now that we're doing all via live distance learning, and they're loving it. They're absolutely loving it. And now more than ever, of course, as I said at the beginning, this is what is required. I also want to mention, I want to thank Sanivi and Rosa for being willing to be the coaches today. It takes guts and courage to be exposed like that in front of a large group and be delivering coaching. So I really want to acknowledge both of them for the outstanding job they did. So I want to just ask, I asked, I asked a question earlier, but what specifically are you walking away with from today, from taking the time today to attend this webinar? What are you walking away with? Amazing experience, I'm hearing. A lot of fun. Oh, that's Sanivi. Okay, I'm glad, Sanivi, that you had some fun. We had some fun listening to you too. Great coaching in 12 minutes. Absolutely. Virtual coaching. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. It works. An even deeper love for the gift of this profession. Yes, Excellent. Short burst coaching has amazing impact. We have a model called the 5-5-5. I also can challenge people. You can have five. You can use it 5-5-5 in 5 minutes and support forward movement in someone. Because remember, Ed and Joliane, this is about forward movement. They did it in different ways. Different skills were required. Different ways, but actually there is a process that was being used, and it is all connected to supporting that forward movement. And when you have these kinds of conversations, I am telling you, people move forward farther, faster, quicker, easier, better than they would have without having a coaching experience. So please go out there and coach your hearts out. Join us if our programs are fit for you. How do we make money at 12 minutes per session? Yes, you can. Yes, you do. And you could. I love Catherine. Yeah, by the minute. Yes, exactly. It's worth thousands. Absolutely worth thousands. So, what if we could just move to the last slide, and as everybody's leaving, I want to leave you with this. What if everyone had coaching skills? That's our passion. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks again, Ed, Joliane, Rosa, Sanivi, and of course our wonderful Sandra as well for making this webinar happen.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Allison.
Bye.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.